Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think it's Wednesday, so happy Wednesday. Wanted to introduce you to my guest today, Sharon. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So today on Digital Growth Live, again, my mission is to interview 100 women entrepreneurs, helping to shine a light on these amazing entrepreneurs in different industries, different ages, different ethnicities to just showcase how amazing these entrepreneurs are. Here we talk a little bit about business. We talk a little bit about marketing because I'm a digital marketing strategist, and we have a branding specialist, which I'm super excited to talk more about marketing with. And then we talk about how do we have self-care? How do we keep play in our life? How do we keep pleasure in our life? Because I think of business as doing business from a holistic standpoint, mind, body, and spirit. And so I like to weave that into the conversation. So that's kind of what you're in store for today. An amazing conversation about rocking your brand with my special guest, Sharon.
All right. Yes. Thank
Yes.
you.
So to start off, Sharon, why don't you just tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business?
Okay. A little bit about me. I'm originally from the Boston area. Our main office is in Stoughton. I have some exciting news to share. So, you have breaking news right now. We've expanded to Pennsylvania.
Woo!
So, got some
I love
exciting
it.
things. Yeah, got exciting things going on. So we brought on a wonderful business development director. So more to come in our newsfeed on that. But about me, I grew up in a family-owned business. I didn't have a choice except to dive into business, no matter what it would be. But my parents were dry cleaners. They were community people. We had a strong sense of family. And what I liked about growing up in a family business is we were always together. So I spent more time with my parents when I was very young because they had control of their schedule. It might have been long days, but we were always together, 7 days a week, whether we were at home, church, work, in the neighborhood with family, that paid off. So fast forward, I went to art school. My husband and I, we got married. We started a graphic and web design business. We had our kids, and through the encouragement and demand of clients, relaunched the business officially in 2014 and went full time in 2017. And we've just been growing fast ever since our 2017 rebrand as Brewster branding. So Brewster it's my married name, it's our family name. My son said, "That's the name, mommy." We had a few options out there, and he said, "I like that one because people will remember it." So we're in our new space in Stoughton. My family looked at it. My son said, "This is the spot because you can keep changing it to make it what you want to be." So we are a creative family. We're a technology family. We're a family that loves hard. It doesn't mean every day is easy, but I would rather be in business for myself and be available to them so I can talk to people like you at this time in the evening and not worry like, "Oh, I got to catch my train," because I have control of that. I can come home and cook and then go back and do the things that we have to do to grow the business. So that's who I am: family, business, fun, brands almost 24 hours.
I love it. And what I love about you telling us kind of that introduction of who you are is entrepreneurship has kind of been ingrained in you from a young age, from a family business, and then you're continuing the legacy, right? Because it might be a different business, but you're also fostering entrepreneurship in your children or your child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. The children, they know they can study anything. I just ask that they study business, even if it's part-time. I told my son and my daughter, you don't have to go for the full-on MBA at one of the top business schools. The key thing is no matter what you want to do, I want you to know how to run it, not just how to execute it. So when there's an economic downturn, you have a choice. Do you want to be in the office? Do you want to be on the truck? Do you want to be in the medical facility? How do you see yourself? And just having a sense of business, whether it's through a certificate, or whether it's through a full diploma, post grad, whatever it is, you just need to have the access to the information and the certification from someone that gives you that seal of approval that yes, I can trust you with this. And I'm not knocking. I have two very different children, so one is just full on one direction, other one's the complete opposite direction. But what I've learned is in all of that, credentialing matters. No matter if you're in the trades or if you're going the college route, people want to see that you've committed to something. And it
Mm.
doesn't always matter what school. It's not about so much the sweatshirt, it's about the commitment to excellence.
Yeah, I love it. And and this is totally like when I do my digital growth lives, we kind of have conversations that go wherever they go. So I'm curious, like from you being young and then also your children, like what do you find are the key aspects that they're learning from entrepreneurship? Like, or the key traits?
Well, I love that you think I'm young because I'm like 99, but
It looks like you're 19, not 99.
I'll take it. But but I'm not quite 99, but I have a few good years left. But I would say rephrase that question. You got me with a compliment. Unless you think I'm young.
So what are some of the traits, especially for your kids? Because I commend you for keeping your family in entrepreneurship, right? Giving them leeway to go wherever they want to go, but also having business as a framework. And I'm curious, what traits do you think from learning about entrepreneurship are they taking with them?
The traits they're taking with them is so my daughter, the trait she takes, her discipline and her focus. She is a mini version of my husband with that. They're very good about testing, being focused, being committed. They're very good at timing. So that's the trait that I think she's picked up. And she even tells me, mommy, when you're gonna do something, you have to put an end to that time. She's very good about that. I
Mm.
asked her to help with something. I'm like, I have a full plate, can you do X, Y, and Z? And she's like, kind of like, no, I got my things that I have to do. And, I have my biology, I have this. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have a full plate. And no matter what someone's plate is full with, we have to respect it. And she'll hold that line. And my
Love it.
husband, he's the same way in regard to his industry. If he tells you something will be ready at 2:30, their mindset is very much like that. My son and I, his trait, he is creative, he's a maker, he's handy like my husband. He's strong, but the thing I noticed with him, he likes to problem solve. He loves to walk into an empty space. He loves to create. So that creativity, not just in an artistic sense, but in a problem solving sense, that's the trait and the characteristic that I see in terms of him in entrepreneurship. My daughter is, she's also a problem solver. Hers is a more disciplined medical approach. My son sees challenges such as he gets very sensitive about animals and people who have mobility issues. He thinks it's very unfair when someone has mobility issues, whether it's due to injury or age. So he's determined to figure out how to make things easier for people. So he's looking at things like what are all the options, like what's been made and what's not working. So when I see them in terms of being future entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs, that's what I see: creativity and problem solving
I
and
love that.
time management. And I mean, they turn around and teach me. I'm thinking I thought I taught them, but they turn around and give it right back.
I love that because I feel like those, from a marketing strategist perspective, those are key elements in creating marketing strategy, right? And those probably are key elements in creating your brand: discipline, setting that timeline, problem solving, and the creativity part. So tell me a little bit more about your business and how you incorporate these principles, if you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the way we incorporate these principles, we have our core values, which is more so about how we work and our ethics side. But the way we incorporate the time management piece, I would just tell any entrepreneur that part, unless you're already naturally good at it, look at different tools. So we're revisiting another set of tools again to help us with the time management as we're growing, because now we're looking at two different locations and how to take that on and make it work. And it's already working. And what we're learning is everyone has a different workflow and a different work style. So sometimes we look at what's the tool. So I say, let's make a group decision. Let's a few of us meet. What's the tool? What makes sense? And also, what can the client work with? So I won't mention any brands in terms of apps, but there's some apps, it's great for the business, but it might be challenging for the client. And I'm someone, I like things written down. I like to be able to print things out. So there's a lot of management apps that are focused on the solely digital aspect. And when I meet, even if we're on a Zoom, I want to be able to print out. I don't care if it's 30 pages. I want to print it out. I want to highlight it, because when I don't, that's when things can get lost or held up because it's not like right in front of me. So as an entrepreneur, as a busy entrepreneur, I have a mirror that's about, I'm looking at it now. I have two of them, but I have one that I actually write on, and it's maybe 8 feet tall. And that mirror, it gets filled up with things. So when I need to write something down and I need it in front of me, I put it on that mirror. And then when it's done, it doesn't come off and it doesn't get erased until it's done.
Okay.
So at first I'll draw a line through it, and then I'll erase it when I know, okay, I don't need to revisit this for any reason. But that's in addition to a very streamlined approach to project management. This new business development director is really taking us to a different place in terms of how we manage projects and work with clients. We're looking at taking on a white glove approach with our clients, because we have someone who specializes in client engagement. And so what I'm doing is I'm stepping back from a piece of that so I can really focus on the creative side, and then the relationship nurturing I'm doing will be around the work and not so much chasing down appointments. And so, we specialize in web design, logo design, social media management. And in order for me to really get into the work and have 4 uninterrupted hours of creativity, so I can do the deep work, get into deep thought. It's hard to jump into a really creative mode when you're doing multiple tasks and then you stop
Mhm.
and then you jump back in. So I'm really working hard with this team to make that what it is. So a typical day at Brewster Branding, we start at 7 in the morning, and we have a morning meeting for about 30 minutes. We do a inspirational talk about leadership. We're focusing on 21 aspects of leaders right now. So everyone on the team is a
Love
leader.
it.
Everyone. And career development is really important to me. And I talk about young professionals, but I think anybody who comes through the door to work with us, I really want to push them, because the more that I'm putting into them is the more they're pouring into the client.
Yeah.
So and then I let people know it's okay. Like, we have a little thing. We all check our ego at the door. So I'm like, please, if something's not working, don't let me have egg, on my face during the whole meeting. Like, please tell me if something's not, text me during the meeting or say something, speak up, because what we want to do is really for the benefit of the client. So, I'm willing to turn, how we function on its side repeatedly every couple of months, not because we're reinventing the wheel, but because we're making it better. We want to build a faster, more efficient process constantly. Process improvement is something we're visiting probably every 7 to 10 days until I feel like this is really it. This is perfect. If it's perfect for 6 months, that's great. If something new comes out, do we change? Not unless maybe there's a demand. But right now, we're really in pursuit of excellence. Like, that's our focus.
I love that, in pursuit of excellence, and that's the willingness to adapt, right? And I think that's why you're seeing growth in your organization now, is because it's a willingness to adapt. I mean, not many people, when the pandemic hit, were comfortable with adapting and being flexible, right? So if you're looking at your business and your business model every every couple of weeks, every couple of months, and you're like, this is not working, you can make that pivot before you're too far down the line to be like, why didn't I make that pivot before?
Exactly.
So that's phenomenal. And I love that you are really helping your employees really push the edges, right? I love leaders who like help other people succeed, right? I think, and especially from a digital or especially from a marketing sense, right? Creativity is, I find, so important. Important. That's why I love marketing, because I like to be creative, but I also like structure and hitting goals. So that's what I also like about it. But I think it's so important that as a group, you're able to work together on both of those aspects.
Yes, I love our team, and it's really been a huge payoff to have a team where it's not about there's a leader here and everyone else is something different. There's a different category. I feel like if we're all operating at a high level and excellence, it also gives the client an assurance that when they're speaking to someone, it is someone who can address their issue and their concern and maybe a pain point that their business might be experiencing. What I like to have happen is if a client has a touch point with anyone on the team, that person can get them an answer without feeling like I need to go back to Sharon because she's the only one who knows, or I need to go to someone else. The only time that we're truly in a holding pattern is if we're collaborating with multiple vendors, and I always have to price. I have to price check. I have to check. It's more so for the client. I don't want to quote someone on something and there's we're really dealing with supply chain issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to take for granted that something is the same price it was last summer and someone does a reorder. And, I feel like, I need to double check, even if it's a slight increase with the supply chain issues. I had a client, they order something twice a year. And in the fall, the item just wasn't available. And prior to that, the item was available, but the quality wasn't quite the same because it was a different manufacturer that that company was using. So in that regard, I'm like, it makes sense to check and double check because that meant that the brand color would be off in the product. And I said to the client, can we hold off a little bit because I want to get you a good product, and we got to look at the price. I don't want you paying for something, paying 20% more, and it takes 6 months to get here and then you're not happy with it. So let's look at that. But other than that, to have everybody in house really be able to hit the ground running, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, awesome. So the topic today was rock your brand. So let's talk about branding because Brewster branding, you guys are all about branding.
Yep.
If somebody is starting out a new business or kind of like midway in their business and they were like, okay, I need to work on my brand. Take me through like 2 or 3 tips or what should that organization be thinking about? Because I know everybody approaches it a little bit differently. So I'm curious about like, how do you work with your clients on like, okay, this is how we're going to work with developing your brand.
Got you. So hot off the presses, what we're talking about internally and rolling out to our clients who have kicked off jobs within the last 3 weeks. We're telling people video, video, video.
I
Video
was
gets
just
people.
talking to someone about video, so I love that.
There's our confirmation right there. So
Yeah.
lots of video, and don't put the pressure on yourself that the video has to be absolutely perfect. Be animated, be bold, be bright, be exaggerative, be demonstrative. Like I'm doing all this. So if you're a Mary J fan,
Ah,
get this stuff going. you know, but look at who we're talking about. We're talking about Mary, right? And it might be the stagger stuff, but that's what comes to mind. But you want to be animated in a way that speaks to your audience. So if you're a little bit shy with video, my encouragement to build your brand, you just get comfortable, put on a Zoom and just start talking about what you do until you get a little bit comfortable. And then when you play it back to yourself, you'll know what you want to correct. If there are vocalized pauses, if there's words that you keep saying, if there's phrases that you keep getting hung up on. And if you notice you get stuck, don't get discouraged. Actors are professionals and they have a whole team around them. So if you struggle to say your own mission statement and your name and your business name and your social media handles, most people struggle with that. And
yeah.
anyone on television has probably gone to acting school, has an acting coach, and they have a whole team. And there's a lot of editing that's going on. We are everyday people who are in business and we're trying to come across authentically. So you just practice and you edit according to what you're able to do. If you stumble over something, find an adjective that works better or find a different way to naturally say it and just go with it, because ultimately you want to get your message out there and be heard. And then if you have keywords that relate to your industry, it's part of your tagline, you can always weave that into your website, your social media graphics, into the lower thirds on the screen. The other thing you can do in addition to video, so you have your video on your website, you have it in social media, you can text your video links to people. So you're working with your video every which way that you possibly can. You take your same content, whether it starts with your video or it ends with your video. If you have an article, a blog, or something that you're saying, an event that you're speaking at or participating in, something that you're passionate about, like if you're, I would encourage everybody to attach their business to a cause that they can make a connection to, an authentic connection. So pick something, whether it's a personal interest or it just relates to your industry, because that piece with social responsibility is huge. And our newly onboarded business development director, he's really been encouraging us with that. So that's something we took on last year, and it helps. It opens doors, and it allows you as a business owner to really feel good about what you're doing. We also know statistically that volunteer work helps add add years to your life. So if you want to think about when you do something good, it's actually coming back to you in a way. It's extending your life, literally. So do good for people. It does come back to you, right? That reciprocity. The other thing about building your brand, if you're concerned about your brand colors, are people responding to it? It's okay to take informal surveys, see what people respond to, look at analytics. You don't have to become so data driven where you're just kind of wearing yourself out, but take a look at your analytics. So if you're building your brand, if you notice there's certain pages on your website that's not getting as much traffic, or you run an ad and it does great one month and then the next time it's not really getting a lot of attention, you want to look at, was it something with the image? Was it something with the content? Was it something with the timing? So as you build your brand, you also want to do a little bit of research and a little bit of monitoring of the analytics to see what are people responding to. Consistency when you're building your brand is huge. So if you have one logo this week and another logo the next week, and a family member makes a logo for you, you have to put a stake in the ground and say, this is my logo, and stick with it. A lot of logos do not tie into exactly what people do, and sometimes they do. Now, in terms of building your brand, if your logo doesn't tie into what you do, so say for instance, you make horseshoes, but your logo doesn't actually have a horseshoe in it, because we know maybe 1,500 other companies that do horseshoes already are using them, and you do something different. You do something with your town name and the shape of a mountain or something behind it, and it has really nothing to do with a horseshoe, but somehow thematically that's where you arrived. That's when you want to think about, where does my tagline belong? Can my tagline further define what my business does if it's not intuitive in the name? So if it's not Larry's Horseshoes of New England, if it's, someone's last name like Owens Inc., and you're like, okay, well, what is that tied to? You want to put something like, the best horseshoes in New England, right? So so that way people understand what you're doing. Because if you don't, they have no idea what to expect. They don't know if you sell steaks. They don't know if you sell cars. They're not really sure if you sell paper. So you always want to be clear. If it's not intuitively in your name, if it's not, Springfield House of Pizza. I'm trying to pick a generic town, Springfield House of Pizza. Uh, if it's just, Springfield Eats, people won't know exactly what type of food they can order or expect. So your brand is your promise. So you want to be real clear on, what is that promise that we're making? Can we deliver consistently on that promise? And that's the working definition right now of what a brand is. And the term brand, it's going to come and go. Right now, that this word brand is on fire. And brands have always existed. It's just the terminology is hot right now. So when that terminology fades out, you still want to have the proper foundation. So when it's called something else, you still have elements for success in your business. So don't get too caught up in, it's a brand, it's a brand. If I get my hair cut, if I put on some makeup, if I get the right colors, I have a brand. You have a brand when people know what it is you do and you consistently do it, and they can find you again and again and again doing that same thing, and then possibly seeing you expand into other markets. That's what a brand is. Whether you call it a brand, whether you call it a reputation, whether you call it marketing, brand is a word. I was almost hesitant to put it in our business name, but it's really what we do. And I'm a fan of Mad Men. So I was like really inspired by that show altogether. And I'm going to leave John Hamm alone, but he really did a good job bringing that character together. But in terms of, if you grow your brand, the main thing I would say is have some consistency and be bold, and don't be afraid to put that stake in the ground for what you say your business is, and don't be afraid to deliver on it. There's so much money to be made in a digital platform. Now's the time to jump. This is the digital gold rush in some regard. I don't want to be quoted on that, because if something happens and there's a market tank, they'll say she's
I love
wrong.
it. Digital gold rush, but I really feel like it is.
Yeah, so I think it's time to jump in. It's time to jump into TikTok if you haven't. It's time to, figure out your space in YouTube, and really think about the fact that you have Google, you have YouTube, and they're connected, and a lot of people don't put that together. And I'm not knocking any platform, and I'm not elevating another platform, but now is the time to jump in, and jump in where you feel comfortable, and jump in where you don't feel comfortable. It's not a pool. You're not going to drown. You're not. I promise. It's not a pool. Like a swimming pool, be safe, right? But we're talking about if something doesn't go right, you can shut the computer down and take a deep breath and come back and revisit. So it is time to jump in. I would just say that.
I love it. And a couple of different things. I mean, you had talked about YouTube. Not many, I don't feel like not many entrepreneurs use it or utilize it as often as they should. And that's exactly what you said. YouTube is connected to Google, right? And that you started off with talking about brand, video, 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 video. So here you go, YouTube, you can post videos, 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 and it's going to help with your search engine optimization, right? If people are looking online in Google, which a lot of people primarily do, there's a section for videos. That's going to give you more space from a marketing capacity. And I'm starting to play around with that too. And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I use that? And I also love, you gave so many nuggets, and I'm like so excited because I geek out on marketing and I geek out from learning about other marketing strategies. But talking about your logo, and I talk to so many entrepreneurs that they're so focused like on the color and like the picture, that sometimes it doesn't represent what they're providing, but simply clarifying with that tagline could really help tell the story a little bit more. And then the other point that you talked about was consistency, right? We're so focused on creating these images, and if you're not consistently getting those images out, then what's the point? Right. But I see people do it all the time. They just focus on like the shiny new object, and they're not consistently posting, or they're not consistently engaging with their audience. And that's where the business is really created. The engagement with your audience, the engagement with net new prospects, creating the relationship. I feel that digital is just like a stepping stone to really creating that relationship. It's not the relationship. And I think people need to really take a look at that. They think if they do social, they're going to get the customers. No, it's just part of the process to help you build that trust, that know, like, feel with your audience. And then you get to continue on the relationship. So yeah, I loved all of that.
Love it. Love it. That is a great summary. You're good.
Oh, thank you.
That's a great summary. Yeah, that is the realm that we live in. And I love that you're mentioning, just putting up a post isn't what closes the deal, right? So people follow people, then they follow brands. And then because that's where the value of influence comes in. And this is why we buy cereal that athletes are on. Mm-hmm. And we know the athletes should not be eating sugar before games, right? They probably eat other things. We're not saying that they don't have boxes and boxes of cereal that they eat. We're not saying that. But what we are saying is we're more likely to purchase it because we might have somebody that's under 8 that sees their favorite hero, or we might see an adult who's like, I really like that particular team, so I'm going to get that cereal, even though I may like it more or less than something else. But it's that connection to that team or to that person. And it's to some degree, it's aspirational. That item will not get you to be that particular athlete per se. There's no guarantee on it. It's just saying that's the connection. And so when we have a brand, we're trying to connect with people, and we have to connect with them on so many different platforms before they're going to push go, before they're going to make a phone call. I have clients who have brick and mortar storefronts. They have these lovely spaces and they get clients. And then sometimes they get frustrated because there's not people coming in droves. So I have to remind them, how long have you lived in this area? How long have you had a business in this area? How many storefronts have you gone into in the last 5, 10, 15 years that you didn't already have a relationship with? Have you gone into every single storefront because you've driven past them? And so that's when I talk to business owners about knowing, if you choose a brick and mortar, if you need foot traffic, looking at how much parking is truly available. Is it an area that is easy for people to walk through and navigate? Is it pretty? Do people want to walk in that area during the holiday season? So when you pick a brick and mortar area and you have a brand, will the landlord let you have a sign that's the color of your brand? Or are you going to be held to what everybody else already has and you have to blend in because there's already ordinances in that town and things that are in place? So that's something I talk to people about. How much control do you really have over the storefront appearance? How much can your brand be visible? Are you allowed to have A-frames? Can you have lights in the window? Maybe not strobe lights. You don't want to cause an accident or anything that people, they're thinking it's an alarm going off or something. But you want to know, can I stand out in this space? Can I customize it to my brand? When you walk into popular stores in the mall, if you go into an Apple store, if you go into a T-Mobile store, you know that you're in there because their brand is present. You know when you're in Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts, the colors, the floor, the decorations, all that, you can see it from the window before you walk in. You know exactly where you're going to be. So if you're going to do a brick and mortar, you want to know if you're going to have control over that. The other pieces, when I talk to people about walkability, can people walk comfortably in that area? We're not thinking solely about like safety. Ooh, can I walk in this area? No, physically, does it have a sidewalk? Are you able to shovel it in the wintertime? Does the city prioritize this area? Who is in support of this particular part of your town or in your city? What's the network like with other business owners? Does everyone support each other? Are there block parties in the summer that help drive traffic and festivals and things like that? So if you don't make your money in the spring, okay, there's 2 festivals in the summer, July and August. I know I'm going to make money here. And then I also have, the holiday season between November 1st and New Year's Day. And that's going to be my I'm going to close my year out strong. So I talk to business owners a lot about their space in that regard, and also the traffic. If there is traffic and cars going by, how fast are they going by? If you're on a street where everybody's doing 60, because you're on a street that's not quite a highway, it might be a route or something, it doesn't really allow people to stop. But it's more like your location would have to be their destination. They're not going to find you because they're going 60 miles an hour and they're like, oh, I like that dress, I'm going to come back for it. It doesn't quite happen that way. So you want to make sure if you pick a brick and mortar that it's at least in an area that people are driving 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. There are people walking streets, crossing, it's pedestrian friendly. You're more likely to get traffic in an environment like that that's truly supportive of people being able to walk around, shop, and get adequate parking. If you're somewhere, unless it's a highway or a route that's known for having a lot of stores and people tend to drive and walk, but for the most part, that's not where you start. That's more like a established business destination. And you don't want to lock into a lease somewhere and not really be sure, can do I have the confidence to grow my business? And if I don't, am I going to be willing to take the risk to really grow it in that space? So I would say, take some calculated risks and then do some research before you just hop into something, so that you can grow your brand there, and that your landlord and your neighbors will be in support of that because you're adding to that business community.
So I have a question. So if you had a brick and mortar place, are there specific social media channels that you think are better for brick and mortar places? I just popped in my mind because you talked about the digital gold rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'll just leave that question. Yeah, because
okay.
my mind.
That's okay. I think that the audience or the digital platform, the social media platform is more so based on the audience, not so
Yeah.
much where the business is. I think if it's brick and mortar, me personally, I would lean towards I'd lean towards Facebook and Instagram because I feel like you could do a group on Facebook in addition to a business page. You can engage people in conversations, you can have, lives, and you can do rooms and groups, things like that. I feel like the photos are bigger if you're trying to show a space, but I think we have to take advantage of reels and stories and things like that you get on Instagram. So it comes down to how you can apply that social media channel, and it also comes down to how your audience sees it. Me personally, I like wider images, but that doesn't mean, but I notice I spend a lot of time scrolling through video, not through posts, but through video on Instagram. And initially, when I wanted to watch videos, I would go to YouTube. But now I notice, those shorter videos, and TikTok, they pull me in. They take a little bit more time. Like what am I watching? But I notice I'll take that and then I'll jump into that store. So I think if you do Instagram and you're really strategic about it, I think you could get somebody in the door. I don't see why you couldn't. I see that you could get leads. I think if building a brand, that's the other thing. A lot of times people are so into getting their point out, they're not really thinking about what their audience needs. So if
Yeah.
look at, talking to people about their pain points and how your brick and mortar business can help them with that, and how you're available. You have a hybrid approach. You can be in person, you could be online, you could do both. I think there's a lot of legs there. I think there's a lot that a business owner can do. Now is the time to take risks because you can take a lot of risks and not incur as much expense and debt as before. So years ago, I think, you'd have to lock into a hefty lease. And now, you could just, the barriers to entry are so much lower
Yeah.
now. You can buy a URL for $12 or less and give it a try and see what happens in 90 days. If you don't like it, you walk away. 10, 15 years ago, you'd have to buy a 5-year lease, at however much per month, $1,800 a month. And if it doesn't work in 6 months, now you're on the hook for that lease until you can figure something out with the landlord. So I don't like to tell people fail fast and all that. I don't really operate from the standpoint of failure. Not that I'm not against it, but I'm not telling people just try it because if you fail, it's okay. I want to see people succeed. So I would say try it. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, you've lost a minimal amount of money compared to what people would have lost before, or what you would have lost before.
Yeah. So true.
And
I
I'm not
love
that old, but I can tell you it's changed for the better.
Yeah, no, I love it. So many amazing points. So anything you would like the audience to know about your business, or kind of like a last nugget that you want to give to the audience? Because I always ask that. Or is there something that your business right now, like we can drive viewers to your business? So like, are there any specials going on? And then I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about like self-care and pleasure.
Okay, sure. I would say I would encourage folks to reach out to us because we are rolling out something new. So if you like surprises, if you are someone who's ahead of the curve, I encourage you to check us out. We're at brewsterbranding.com. You can drop us your email address and your mobile number, and we can reach out to you. And it's not just to solicit business, it's really from an educational standpoint too on how to grow your business. We have some really great stuff cooking. I can't, like, chomping at the bit, try not to give it away because this new director is going to kill me. The announcement's coming out in less than 10 days. So, but
Okay,
it's
so we're
really
just
good
not
stuff.
going to say anything, but in 10 days, you're going to create a video. You're going to tag me in it so people who are following now will know what's going on. How about that?
Exactly. And you know what? I think we'll do we'll give you a link, right? We'll do something. We'll have to give you a link, a QR code, or something. We'll have to do something special so that we know is this audience. And then we take good care of everyone, but I'll make sure it's just a little extra special for you all, for just for listening to me babble on about branding. So yeah, we have some really good stuff coming up, and it relates to excellence. It relates to cutting edge SEO and leveraging that with how we talk about design, how we look at design, and how we address clients' problems and hopefully make them disappear for them. So
Awesome. We might have to have you come back because I love talking about marketing. And if you're talking about SEO, like I feel like that's what a lot of entrepreneurs, especially smaller entrepreneurs, are missing, because they're very intimidated by it. But it's so necessary in this digital age, right? If you're jumping into digital, like that's something you need to understand at least at a high level. So
yes,
yeah,
don't be intimidated by it. If you can use your own mobile device, and if you can get up and start your day, don't be intimidated by it. Don't be intimidated by anything you need to run your business. It's because it's yours. It's almost like being intimidated to open your wallet. It's your money in there, so you have to you have to be the one to know what's in there and be able to count it. So SEO is really the same thing. You get as good of an understanding as you can, and then when you need help, then you leverage support and professionals.
I love it. I love that analogy. It's like opening up your wallet. You need to do it. I
Yeah, you
love
got
it.
to. You have to know
Yeah.
what's in there. Yeah, what's in there, what's
Yeah.
not in there. That's how it is.
I love it. I mean, it's so simple and it so makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, oh, that's awesome. Okay. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about, and we'll keep it short, but I always like talk about mind, body, spirit. So what do you do to keep you sustained? Because you've been in business for a long time. I know there's peaks and valleys, and I'm sure there are moments where you're like, WTF, what am I going to do? So how do you keep your like motivation or inspiration alive for yourself?
Naturally, I'm somebody that I don't stay down a lot. If something's bad, I was just telling someone, if something's bad, I know in 2 to 3 months I'm turning the corner,
Mm,
because I can look back over a course of time and you see your business. It's just like anything else, the stock market, sports, anything. There's going to be peaks and valleys. So when there are challenging times, I can look back historically and say, these are the things that we did to get through it. It's going to be okay. And, I look at what's the learning in this? What could we do better? What did we miss so that we're not doing it again? And, because we don't want to damage our own brand, right? We're trying to help other people build their brand. And so we don't want to cannibalize our own for the sake of trying to do good work for everybody else. So we look at that, to kind of get through those difficult moments. Um, you know, our team, again, we do the morning inspiration. So, I mean, 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30, the latest, we talk about leadership and what that means. And, we don't miss a day. Sometimes we even do it on Saturday, even if we're not working the whole day. We might have like a 3-hour powwow, and the first 20 minutes is, reading something that someone else has written. It's not necessarily our stuff. We read it, we alternate, and then we do these check-ins, because I really do. So I have worked in mental health. So
mhm.
I really do want to make sure that people are okay when they're working with us. If you're sick, you got a family member sick, if life is happening, it's going to bleed into the project and it's going to show up in the work. And so that's when another reason I like to do the check-ins, and it keeps us all on the same page. And I don't want to sound cheesy, like, oh, we're one big family. I don't talk to everybody all day, every day, unless it's about work. But that is something that keeps us going. And our family, is similar. I like to cook for my family. So I knew we had our meeting today. So I went home and I made ribs, I made chicken. I told my son to heat up the rice, and I made chicken pot pie, because it's I didn't make any vegetables. We have salads, so there's 2 cases of salad, so they can hop in there, and that's how they get their vegetables in. But I share that because that broke up my day, and it made me feel like I'm home. I was able to kind of disarm from, being in meetings and working all day. And that's why I think I'm alive and bubbly and excited. because I had time to recharge. I didn't go home and say like, I'm here to recharge, but it just happened organically because,
Mm.
I'm getting one of the kids from the school bus stop, and I'm, getting the seasoning out, and it gives you a little break. How can you be unhappy when you have the different seasonings that you like and it smells good, and you're going to go back home to something delicious that you can have for dinner with your family. That part, that helps a lot. And I talk to my family. I have a lot of siblings, and I tell everybody the best gift my parents gave me were my siblings, every single one of them, because they each embody a piece of our parent at a different point in their life. So if I need some sort of tips or advice, I can lean on a sibling. So that helps a lot. And then my nieces and nephews, they're brilliant as well. So I feel like that family support, it's not always being in the same room. It might be a text message, it might be a 20-minute phone call, it might be a 3-hour phone call, depending on what we're talking about. But those phone visits, they really help, and even before the pandemic, that stuff really helps. So that helps to recharge. And close friends, I would say close friends, it's the same thing. My friends who've had babies during this pandemic, the pandemic babies, just seeing those little pictures and the kids are cute in the videos. I love when my friends send the videos.
Yeah.
That really helps because I'm busy, but I can respond back like, "Oh, that's so cute. Like, how old is the baby now?" And realize like, "Wow, time is moving." But that's what keeps me going. It's not anything. I do eat right, and I do advocate for healthy living as best as you can. And it's not just from like a vain standpoint or anything. It really is a health thing. My team, we talk about working out, and this new director, he's like, look, you need to work out at least 30 minutes a day. Like, at least give me 30. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's a health coach too. you know, jeez. But I appreciate it because it wakes up your brain statistically, right? We know research
Mhm.
shows that exercise, the brain is going to be way more active. So that's great for creativity. So, we have to do our morning exercises. We have to do our morning leadership chat and talk about our projects for the day. That's what keeps me balanced and energized. And I'm telling you, when times get tough, sometimes I don't realize that they even tough in the moment, because what happens is it gets challenging and I'm just kind of digging in at it, right? And
Yeah. I
it'll
mean,
feel
you're fully prepared. You really have embodied a mind, body, spirit. I mean, for me, a holistic point of view of doing business. Everything that you just talked about, every day you are sowing into your mind. You're sowing into your creativity. You're sowing into your foundation. Like when you do, for me, when I do that, the tough moments don't seem tough because I'm already prepared. If I'm reading inspiration every single day, in which I do a gratitude practice every single day. When things are tough, I'm like, I got this. Like, this is in my path for a reason. So, not only are you doing that, but like you're physically moving. And I think physical movement is so important, right? We hold a lot of emotions in our body and we don't realize that tension in our body. So when you're moving it, you're moving the energy around and like you're clearing out the path for the new. So that's amazing. And you talked about the support system of your family and your friends, which is phenomenal because when you are kind of in a little lull, like they just bring you up. So you want to support yourself with those those amazing people who just love up on you, because I know you are giving in a creative space, and then that is a support system who keeps you like filled up yourself.
yeah.
So that's awesome. I love it.
Thank you. I love your platform and what you're doing and the way you tied that in. I appreciate that confirmation. This is a space where, I want your audience and everybody who listens and this gets shared to really like. I love your summaries, and if nothing else, if you all just fast forward to Emily's summaries, you'll be okay because you've got it all. You've got it all there. Like tying in marketing to mind, body, and just our overall health. Yeah, like I do want to build brands, and I do want to do offer marketing services that is ultimately good for people, that helps get them into that right place. That's a brand that people will buy into. Is a brand that ultimately helps them. It solves the main problem, but there's byproduct, there's the other benefits, additional benefits and byproducts that are like really good.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love
that you
it.
said that. This is great.
Well, I mean, you are your brand, right? And you're doing
Yeah,
everything to sow into yourself so you can bring that passion and that excitement and that joy and what you're reading every day about leadership and inspiration is not just for you, it's for all your clients, whether you know it or not, right? That is what you're sowing into your clients and you're building them up, right? And you
yeah,
talked about initially the white glove service. You're able to do that because you take good care of yourself, right? Because you know, like, you need the white glove service. You deserve the white glove service, and so do your clients. And that,
absolutely. And I would just say, try to get more sleep. That's the area that I have struggled in. And my husband bought me a product. He bought me an Apple Watch, and I didn't ask for it. And I'm not putting in a plug to that item, so it doesn't have to be that thing. But do what you can to monitor where you're at with things, because the first lesson the Apple Watch taught me, because I got it for Christmas, it said that I was having like stress on Christmas, which it could have been good stress, like maybe I was excited, but it showed me that there's times that I think I'm doing okay, but I was stressed out in the moment. So I think and it also showed me when I'm staying up late working, it shows me that the stress is elevated, the blood pressure is elevated, not blood pressure, heart
yeah,
rate is elevated, blood pressure probably if I'm staying up late and I'm like crazy
yeah,
type of like this. So I would just say in terms of self-care, because I don't want to give anyone the illusion that, I don't kind of go like, there's days I'm definitely like, whoa, but I'm so far better prepared than I would have been 7 to 10 years ago, not having all these things in place. But I would say in the spirit of self-care, if you're not getting enough sleep, just try to add on 1 hour. And if you haven't been to the doctor, do yourself a favor and get to your doctor, get to your dentist. If you don't have one, do the steps you can to take care of your body, because when we keep putting stuff off, then we find out we might have something, if we dealt with it earlier, it could have been a little different, because that's going to cost you time if you have to take a year off, or it's going to
Mhm.
cost you time if you find out that you have to, only work part time because physically you can't sustain what the rate that you had been at. So I would just submit that to you all in all humility. Like seriously, if you don't give yourself any other gift, and again, any product I mentioned, I'm not saying use that particular product, whatever it is, to monitor, where you're at, I would say do it, because it's gonna anything about your health will allow you to add years to your life if you can address it sooner. And if you have unhealthy habits, don't get mad at yourself. Just figure out, what you want to do. Is it worth what it might cost you? And for some people, they don't. Some of us, we don't care. We're gonna do what we're gonna do. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'll throw down on some wings in a minute. And I know it's not the best thing, but I know I can't have them 4 days a week, 3 times a day. But
In
when
moderation.
when I want them, I want them. So I'm not judging if you're like, I have bad habits, I'm not giving them up. I do too. It's just everybody has a different one. But that's what I would submit. But I'm so glad you have me on your platform. I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah.
you.
It was such a pleasure. I mean, usually I go just 30, 35 minutes, and here we are almost an hour just chatting about marketing and taking care of yourself. So I love it. So thank you so much. It was
Thank
such an
you.
honor for you to be on Digital Growth Live. Again, I just thank you for taking the time, giving so many nuggets about branding, right? Because again, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I work with a lot of different clients in marketing, and that's always like a head scratcher, right? I feel like they were like, where do I start with my brand? Where do I go with my brand? How do I attract clients with my brand? So you definitely gave a lot of good insight on that. So I totally love you for that. And
Thank you.
yes, make sure you go to her website. I put it in the link for the invite. If you have any questions, reach out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We will have hopefully another speaker by the end of this week. If not, we are definitely going into another next week with some more speakers. And that's it for Digital Growth Live for today. And everyone have a beautiful, fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Have a good one.